What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Fellas podcast. We are recording tonight on Wednesday, October 12th. You'll be getting this Thursday, October 13th. I am Cameron Lawrence, and I am joined by my number one best friend in the world, Mr. Tyler Plath. He is at Tyler_Plath on Twitter. I am at Camelot317. And you can find the Fantasy Football Fellas at Fantasy Football Fellas on TikTok and YouTube, FFLs on Twitter, the FFLs on Instagram, and of course, Fantasy Football Fellas on YouTube. I already said YouTube. We have a just jam-packed episode tonight, going over some buy low candidates, jumping in some news and notes. There's actually quite a bit of news and notes for a Wednesday or Thursday episode. And then we're going to, as always, break down this week's action. This is the first week of bye week, so it's, we got a little more to talk about. There's a little more fluctuation in the rankings. If you jump over to our Chalkboard, we do post our full rankings there, and you'll see we'll have running backs that are pushing top 10 running backs who aren't usually there because you're missing 2 or 3 guys in the top 10. So, or that goes for all positions. Like I said, we got a full show, so let's just jump right into it. We're going to start with our buy low, sell high. And actually, before we jump in, Tyler, how are you? I didn't even ask. I just went on this whole monologue, just all hyped up, and I didn't even ask how you're doing. How are you tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm ready to dive into week 6. And again, I'm going to plug the personal handles real quick. Cameron, yours is Camlaw317 over on Twitter. Mine is Tyler_Plath. If you want to ask us direct fantasy questions, go ahead and tweet us. Yes. You can literally tweet us and we will respond. We are those kind of people where we respond, we are nice, and we are engaging. Okay. So again, any kind of fantasy questions, go ahead and tweet us or join the Chalkboard. Chalkboard's officially live on Android now, if I'm not mistaken. Before it was just Apple, and that was kind of tough. But now it's open to everyone. So if you want to ask even more people questions, join us on Chalkboard. It is super fun. Weekly rankings, player props, DFS advice, trade advice, starts and sits. I mean, the list goes on. It's got everything you need to be a league winner. Go join the Chalkboard.
There we go. Full transparency, this is our second go at starting this. Lucas isn't here, so if this turns into a mess, it's all on me, and I take full responsibility.
Well, no, I think it's not on you. It's on Lucas for not being here.
That's true. He bailed on us, didn't give us a host, and
right. We have no guardrails.
We'll see how it goes. If we go off, we go off. If we talk about Russell Wilson for 45 minutes today, we talk about Russell Wilson for 45 minutes a day. There is nothing that is going to stop us. All righty. Buy lows. Tyler, kick us off. Who is your buy low candidate?
Oh, welcome back, friend of the show who actually doesn't know that we exist, probably because he's just his name is a brand at this point, but it's Ezekiel Elliott, okay? And we were high on Zeke going into this year's draft, and it hasn't really been the greatest of beginnings, I'll say, with Zeke. He's currently, if I'm not mistaken, he's a running back 37. I almost said 35. No, 37. The big issue with Zeke right now is that he's not finding pay dirt. He only has 1 rushing touchdown in the year, and his receiving work that was kind of, had its ebbs and flows last year is pretty much non-existent at this point. So it probably begs the question, why do I have Zeke as a buy low? Well, it's exactly that. He doesn't have any rushing touchdowns, and he's got a matchup against Philly this week. Okay. Not ideal because it's in Philly, prime time, not ideal. But after that, he's got a great stretch of games. He's got Detroit, Chicago, Green Bay, Minnesota, the Giants, the Colts, the Texans, the Jaguars, okay? Jaguars first week of the playoffs. Then he gets Philly at home, and then Tennessee week 17, okay? That's a relatively decent playoff schedule and a great lead-up schedule going into the fantasy playoffs. And I know a lot of people will say too, what about Tony Pollard? What about Mr. Tony Pollard? I'm not scared of him. Okay. Yes. Tony Pollard has had rushing touchdowns this year, but if I'm not mistaken, majority of those touchdowns have all come on runs longer than 20 yards. Okay. They are breakaway runs from Tony Pollard. And I'm expecting maybe it starts this week, maybe it's next week. I'm expecting when Dak comes back that this offense can get to the goal line for Zeke to find the end zone.
Yeah.
And when that happens, Zeke kind of climbs back into that running back 2 conversation, running back 1 conversation, dare I say, just with how many rushing touchdowns he could have. And also, the yards will come back too. He gets the bulk of the carries already. Yards will come. Go buy low on Zeke because he will reward you with this stretch of games he's got.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for Zeke too, is Dak is coming back, and like Cooper Rush is averaging like 150 passing yards a game right now. Like they're just not moving the ball. And so with Dak coming back, there will be a lot more goal line opportunities. My guy has a lot of the same things, and that's Alvin Kamara. He just hasn't found the end zone yet. And for Kamara, that's really strange. 2020, he had 21 total touchdowns, right? He's a guy who's going to score. He's going to find pay dirt. Right now, he's on a 17-game pace of 1,700 total yards and 96 targets. Like, he's still the same Alvin Kamara. He just hasn't scored. And he put up 20 points last week, and Taysom Hill had 100 yards rushing and 3 rushing touchdowns, right? Even if Taysom Hill pops off, Alvin Kamara can still have a really good week. And so that's why I think he's probably my favorite buy low right now. But yeah, and that's kind of what we've noticed about buy lows is right now it's their guys who haven't found the end zone yet. Michael Pittman, Tom Brady's a buy low. He's only got 7 passing touchdowns on the year. Now he's got Godwin back and he's third in the league in passing yards. There's just a ton of these guys who are really good. They just haven't found the end zone. And so those are the guys we want to capitalize on. I know you explained this last week, Ty, so I'll take a shot at it this week because we're going to transition to our sell highs right now. But it's something that we need to clarify because we have so many people coming at us like for CEH still. Oh, he's not a sell high. Look how he's good. He's done. Sell highs can still have decent games after you get rid of them, right? If you're selling high on a guy that has no potential for good games after, then nobody's going to want to buy him. That's the point. But you're buying in on somebody who's going to be more consistent, who has a higher ceiling moving forward, right? CEH put up a 20-point game after we said sell high. Then he's put up a 6-point game and an 8-point game where he's had less than 2 yards per carry in 2 of them. That's where we're kind of like, okay, we're going to sell high. And Ty, you're trying to capitalize on your sell high right now. There's 2 different kind of ways to do it. And so why don't you tell us your sell high?
Yeah, so I went with the more immediate sell high versus your guy is more of the like look at what he's done over the past couple weeks kind of sell high where you've kind of like marinated the player a little bit to kind of package up. I'll let you explain that after mine, but my guy is Gabe Davis, and we mentioned him in the Tuesday episode. 3 catches and 2 touchdowns, and both touchdowns being over 60 yards. Whoa. Someone is going to be desperate enough and someone is going to be infatuated enough with that kind of point total to go, I want him on my roster, okay? Here's what you can expect from Gabe Davis going forward. You can probably expect 4 or 5 catches a game. 70-ish yards, 80-ish yards. Touchdown here or there. I really don't think his ceiling is north of 20 points.
Not most weeks.
Not most weeks. He may have a week where he scores over 20. But that happens in fantasy football. It just happens, right? Selling high on a guy who finishes a wide receiver 1 on a week with 30-some points. Sell high on that. Someone will want to buy that, okay? And again, you're selling high because you're not expecting him to have 2 touchdowns over 60 yards any other week. That's why you're selling Gabe Davis.
Yeah, I would agree. The thing about Gabe Davis too right now that you could sell high on too is that they're playing the Chiefs this week, who he just torched in the playoffs last week. And even if you sell high and he does it again, he's not playing the Chiefs every week, right? He's not playing the Pittsburgh Steelers every week. That's why you're selling high. You're selling the promise of this week and what we saw last week. My guy, kind of like Tyler said, he's been decent all year. He's a top 12 running back right now. That's Miles Sanders. And Miles Sanders, to me, is a much better fantasy option than he was last year. I will say that. Like, I don't think he drops out of the top 20. Last year, I was like, he's not even in the top 25. I can't say on Miles Sanders. This year, I think he's going to have a decent season. But I don't want that headache of Jalen Hurts. Hurts is averaging 15 rush attempts a game. He's stealing a ton of rushing. He leads quarterbacks in rushing touchdowns. I think the only person he's behind right now is Derrick Henry in rushing touchdowns. He has 6 on the year. Henry is 7. And Miles Sanders is going to lose a lot of that, and then he doesn't have the receiving upside. He's only had 12 targets on the year. So he's playing a Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry style without the touchdowns, and then you can't – the only way that style works is with the touchdowns, and he has less efficiency than a guy like a Nick Chubb. So that is why I'm saying sell high on Miles Sanders. Get a guy who, doesn't have a floor of 6 points because he just gets 60 rushing yards.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, I think the more realistic stat line or kind of point total you can expect from Miles Sanders going forward is anywhere between 10 and 13. And the stat line that I refer to is his stat line against Minnesota, where he had 17 carries for 80 yards, 0 touchdowns. He had 3 catches, right? So, like, in some ways, the receiving work boosted him into double digits to make that week a little bit better. That's the kind of stat line you should expect from Miles Sanders, not the one that you see in Jacksonville where he gets almost 30 carries and 2 touchdowns. That's not going to happen every week. What's going to happen every week is somewhere between 13, 16 carries, somewhere between 75, 90 yards rushing, and a touchdown here or there. So he will give you an 18-point week like we saw against Detroit. We are betting more so that only happens once or twice. All the other weeks are what I mentioned against the Vikings, that 16 carries, 80 yards, a reception here or there for like 12, 13 fantasy points.
Yeah, I would agree. And so with that, let's transition then into our news and notes, brought to you by our friends over at Sleeper, the #1 fantasy platform in the world with over 4 million users. You can check them out in the link in the description of this video.
Hey,
there you go.
Nice little Sleeper banner.
I didn't even know I had that. It's great work. Yeah, we're not going to spend too long on these. We'll mention them because we'll talk about them more when we get into the matchups. So we'll just kind of mention them now and then kind of dive back into it. Dolphins, Mike McDaniel said they're currently planning on starting Skylar Thompson if Tua is out. Teddy is expected to be the backup if he's healthy. And then the Dolphins are also optimistic on Tyreek Hill playing. It's funny because all 3 of us saw this and all 3 of us go, we're betting Miami money line because they're playing the Vikings who do not like playing against backup quarterbacks for some reason. That one's one that we'll definitely jump into right away when we get to the Vikings and Dolphins game. Devontae Adams been charged with a misdemeanor assault. I don't know if you guys saw at the end of the game, he shoved one of the camera guys who ran in front of him, obviously out of frustration. Misdemeanor assault. If they wanted the maximum, it would be 180 days in jail and a $5,000 fine. NFL players don't get the maximum, so I'm not worried about him missing any time. I think the worst we see is a 1-game suspension for Devontae Adams. I don't know about you, Tyler. That's kind of where I stand as the worst we see. If Kamara's still on the field and hasn't had, a court date, I don't think we're going to see Devontae Adams getting super punished here.
Yeah, I think if there's any kind of league punishment, it's a suspension of a game and then a nice little fine on the side. But Devontae Adams is going to pay the guy whatever he wants because it's a stupid charge. Let's just admit it. The guy is just doing it as a sole money grab. So if he misses a game, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Cooper Rush looks to be back under center one more week for the Cowboys. They said Dak is still a long shot, but like a very long shot, like 2% chance of playing. They're hoping to get him back week 7. The 49ers have signed Tevin Coleman to the 53-man roster. Patriots, Mac Jones is limited. Damian Harris is limited. Harris was reported to miss multiple weeks, and so it is kind of encouraging to see him back on the field. Obviously, if you're a Ramondre Stevenson manager, you were kind of hoping he was out a little bit longer. You were hoping to really see what Stevenson can do. But yeah, I actually didn't know that until I just read that off that Damian Harris was limited. So that is something to watch. It could also just be, he ran a couple drills that call him limited and he's not going to play.
I mean, they did the exact same thing with Mac Jones last week, right? Where there was no way that he's playing, but somehow he is, or he was limited in practice. So like you said, just keep an eye on it.
Yeah. For the Commanders or the Commies, Ty wrote on our doc, Logan Thomas and Jahan Dotson are both out for Thursday Night Football. So look for more of the same what we saw last week from the Commanders. Rashad Bateman not spotted at practice again with a foot injury. Really hoping that he can get back, but that remains to be seen. Aaron Rodgers is dealing with a thumb injury, but should be good for Sunday. I feel like we get this from Rodgers a lot. Just some random injury that you didn't hear about during the game, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, he's a little banged up. So we'll see what happens. Falcons, Drake London, and Ty's out here making waiver moves during the show.
I just picked up De'Ami Brown because if Jahan Dotson and Logan Thomas are out, I don't know, maybe it's worth a shot. Just a spot start with De'Ami Brown again. Who knows?
There you go. See, this is just how it works. You hear some news, it clicks in your head, you go pick them up, you give it a shot, right?
I'm just, it reeks of desperation because I do not have a great record in this league, but you know what? Why not?
Mm-hmm. Next, we got the Falcons. Drake London and Kyle Pitts both practiced today. We'll talk about it. I don't know how much that actually means for the Falcons in this game. Got a couple of stats on the San Francisco 49ers defense. Pete Carroll, probably the stupidest thing I've heard all week. Just, why would you say this? And there's no way it's true. Drew Lock nipping at Geno's heels. What? Geno is playing amazing right now. Out of his mind. Like, every reporter's like, what changed this offseason? He's like, have you never seen me throw? Like, he has confidence. He's making crazy good throws. He's keeping them in games. And he says Drew Lock is nipping at his heels. Can you explain this quote to me, Ty, or is it just dumb?
Do you remember back in 2017 when Mike Zimmer I'm trying to remember the exact comment he made, but when Case Keenum was still the starter, I'm trying to remember who was the quarterback coming back. Was it Sam Bradford?
It might have been Bradford.
So Bradford was coming back, and everyone was like, well, are you going to go back? And Zimmer made a comment of just kind of like, we'll still go game by game or whatever. That's what this feels like, of just like, it's the most backwards kind of motivation kind of quote you could ever think of. Like, one, there's no place for it because, like you said, Geno Smith is playing out of his mind and he's confident as all get out. Two, what is Pete Carroll seeing that we have not seen with Drew Lock over the past 2 years?
I have no idea. He has this infatuation with Drew Lock, but he didn't start him. Like, he was saying earlier that he was better than any quarterback in this draft, and then I don't get it. All right, we'll move on. Jonathan Taylor did not practice, and Naheem Hines is limited with a concussion. Phillip Lindsay season, baby. Man, if I as a JT manager myself in one of my leagues, I really, really want to see Jonathan Taylor back this week because they're playing the Jaguars, and I think he could just demolish them because he loves beating up on AFC South teams. However, at the same time, if he's really, this ankle's still bugging him, I want it to go away, right? I don't want to see him hampered the rest of the season. So it's a little back and forth on that.
Odds are that he does play though,
Yeah.
because the Colts do need to get back on track. And
Yes, they need to win badly.
yeah, so
A
I don't
reminder:
know if you're a
these are
JT
Wednesday
man.
practices.
It is Wednesday practices, so there's still time. But
Mhm.
again, if you're a JT manager, I wouldn't be super happy if I were you.
Yeah, for sure. Bucks, Godwin limited. Gage did not practice. Julio did not practice. If we're being honest, I don't think Julio's going to practice on a Wednesday for the rest of the season, for the rest of his career.
Didn't they give a Veterans Day? Like they gave Tom
Yeah,
Brady a Veterans Day on Wednesday,
and I'm
and
sure they'll
they
give.
gave Julio the exact same thing,
Yeah,
didn't they?
yeah, I'm pretty sure. And I would assume Godwin's limited most Wednesdays as well, coming, just ACL recovery and stuff like that. Gage is the one I would really keep an eye on. Steelers, Freiermuth still has not or was not practicing today with coming off his concussion. Deontay Johnson was limited today. I didn't even know he was hurt. But it'll be interesting to see that moving forward. James Conner considered day today, and Darrell Williams is out for Sunday. Who was the guy again? Okay, who was taking the running back snaps after they both went out? Was it Eno
Benjamin?
It was Eno Benjamin. They got 2 6-round picks in him and Keontae Ingram back there. Benjamin from 2 years ago and Ingram from this year. If both can't play, so they're going to try and get Connor back, but it's not like he's been great anyways on the ground for them this season. Giants, Kadarius Toney dealing with injuries to both hamstrings. That is impressive, right? Both hamstrings.
You remember when Carson Wentz sprained both ankles last year? That is that same feel. Just like, wow, that is impressive.
Wan'Dale Robinson's limited. It would just be fun to see them both on the field at the same time, completely healthy. Like with this offense, you got Saquon. They would probably be one of the most dynamic offense playmaker wise. Not saying that it would work, but they would have some of the most dynamic playmakers on the team. And then for the T. Higgins limited, and then for the Saints, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, and Deontay Hardy all did not practice today. If they don't play, it is going to be the Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara show, because that is all they have if they don't play.
Yeah, Taysom Hill is a start if if those guys don't play.
Because they don't have any other options, right? And we know what he can do, so yeah, he's got to be a start. Alrighty, with that, we will jump in to our weekly breakdown, starting with Thursday night football. Man, you got the Washington Commanders at Chicago Bears. DraftKings isn't even providing a line tie, so they're not giving either team points. So I got to ask, is this the worst primetime matchup of the season?
Yes.
So here's what I got to ask. Could you think of a worse primetime matchup this season?
I'm just looking ahead to the rest of the season. Week 9, we have Philly against Houston.
But Houston's at least been playing like decent. Like these are just boring offenses.
I mean, I think we'd rather watch a blowout, right? Which I think that game will be compared to this.
Yeah, it's just something fun. This is gonna be like 9-6.
Week 10, we have Atlanta versus Carolina.
Oh well, yeah, there you go. At least that one's divisional.
Right.
How do you pick a bad game that's not even divisional?
We have Thanksgiving Thursday, Buffalo versus Detroit.
Oh my. That game might be 106-50.
That one might be brutal. Yeah. So those are in the running, but this game is still a level more bad than the rest of those games.
I don't remember who tweeted it, but I saw someone and they were like making a joke. Like, told my wife that we can skip watching football tonight, and they were talking on Tuesday. They were just pretending there was supposed to be a game, and then somebody in the comments goes, "I'm actually planned a date night to show my wife how much I love her over this football game because I don't want to watch this football game at all on Thursday."
Genius.
But this contest features 2 bottom 7 offenses, and the Commanders are a bottom 7 defense. So I got to ask you, there's 3 wide receivers that I think have really any relevance this game. And that is Darnell Mooney, Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin. Can you rank those three for me in terms of, or maybe not even rank? Tell me which ones you would start and which ones are you staying away from this game.
Let me look up Terry's stat line because he's the one player out of those three that I'm like not paying attention to at all because
no personal stake.
Yeah.
He's currently the wide receiver 31. And last week he had 5 receptions on 6 targets for 76 yards. Here's his receptions for the first 5 games: 2, 4, 6, 2, 5. And his yardage is 58, 75, 102, 15, and 76.
Man, I think I've got, they're all in the third spot. No one takes number 1, no one takes number 2. I'm kidding. I think I got to put Curtis number 1. He seems like, besides last week, he seems like he's been the most consistent out of the bunch.
Definitely.
Just on targets alone and receptions, yeah, but again, that's my point. Number 2, here's the thing. I'm going to put Darnell Mooney number 2, and that will sound outrageous because Terry hasn't been bad, right? Like he's been putting up 11, 12 fantasy points a week, which isn't bad.
No.
I think this Bears offense is slowly getting going, and we saw it on Sunday against the Vikings.
In the second half, yeah.
They let Fields do his
something.
thing. Yeah, well, like they let him do something, right? Mm-hmm. The deep bomb to Mooney in the first half definitely helped things.
Yes. What a catch, by the way.
That was
we didn't even comment on that. We should. That was an insane catch.
It was a good catch. But like in the second half, they let Fields drop back and they let him do his thing. Where he got pressured, they let him go. And he was finding players. So the hope is that they continue to kind of, I don't know, let Justin Fields kind of sling it around a little bit. And I think this is a great matchup just because the Commanders are not really stopping anyone at the moment. Mm-hmm. So I'll put Mooney 2 and Terry 3. That being said, I was just hyping up De'Ami Brown as a pickup, and he's questionable. So Terry could very well be number 2 in this list and whatnot. But all that to say, the most consistent one out of these 3 is Curtis Samuel. He's the one that I'm going to put. If I was a betting person, I would put money down that Curtis Samuel is going to have the better game out of the 3.
Yeah, he is averaging 9 targets a game right now, out targeting McLaurin by 12 on the year. Last guy I want to talk about is Brian Robinson. I personally wouldn't start him this game. Are you feeling any different about that?
No, we didn't really see. Granted, it was his first game back from literally being shot, but it seems like it's a 3-headed monster with Gibson, McKissick, and B-Rob right now. Mm-hmm. I need to see a week where Brian Robinson actually takes over carries before I put him in a starting lineup.
Yep. No, I would agree. I would wait. I would wait till he proves it, like you said, before I put him in the starting lineup. Obviously, David Montgomery, if you have him, you're starting him. Controlled the backfield last game against the Vikings, even though he wasn't very efficient. So with that, let's move on to the Sunday slate. Actually, let me ask you first, who you got in this game? Commanders or Bears? Nobody's giving points.
Everything says take Washington. I'm going to go Chicago.
I agree.
I think it's prime time at Chicago. Oh, I just found that over-under total for you. It's at 38. And I'm taking the under still.
That's just disgusting.
Yeah.
I think that's enough talking about that game for the rest of our lives. Next one is start the Sunday slate. We got our Minnesota Vikings at the Miami Dolphins. Minnesota -3. We touched on it earlier. Skylar Thompson is starting for the Dolphins. Last week, we saw him at 19 completions on 33 attempts for 166 yards and a pick. With that, we did see Mostert come in with 18 carries and 110 plus targets less, or 110 plus yards. Are you optimistic on Mostert? Would you be starting him this week, or how
I
are you
would.
feeling? Yeah,
I
that's
think
kind of
he.
where
I
I
think
am.
he. I think he's a flex this week. I mean, the one thing about Mostert is that he's speedy. He is speedy. He can get outside pretty quick.
Yeah.
Minnesota has not really done a good job of stopping guys that go to the outside. They do a good job stopping them between the tackles, but not necessarily to the outside. So that's why I do think Mostert can be a flex for people this week.
I would agree with that. Looking at the Miami pass catchers, then Tyreek Hill questionable coming into the game. Jalen Waddle's been banged up. We looking at a normal like low end wide receiver or wide receiver one, high end wide receiver two for these guys? Or are you really tempering expectations with Skylar Thompson and then the injuries coming in?
Yeah, I think I'm just lowering expectations. I think you still have to start these guys
Mm-hmm.
because they will have to throw the ball.
Yes.
Like they that's just matter of the fact. But I mean, Skylar Thompson threw the ball 33 times last week. Granted, 10 of those were to the running back. Like Myles Gaskin, had 3 receptions on 5 targets. I'll just leave that one there for whoever wanted to hear that. But I mean, Tyreek was 7 for 7. Jalen Waddle was 3 for 3. So if that's an indication for anything, I would think it leans more towards Tyreek. That being said, it's not completely healthy, right?
Yeah.
And you never want to hear the O word thrown around in a lead up to a game. Granted, it is Wednesday, but still, you don't want to hear anything saying we're optimistic, right?
Yeah.
That to me sounds like, oh, Tyreek is going to be playing at 80%, 90% instead of 100.
Yeah. 100%.
So again, still start him, just lower the expectations a little bit.
Definitely. Looking at the Viking side, obviously, you're starting Cook, you're starting Jefferson, Adam Thielen. How are we feeling about Thielen this week?
How do you feel about Adam Thielen? Because anytime I talk about Adam Thielen and I say start him, he does bad. And anytime I say sit him, he does good. So I'm staying away from Adam Thielen. I'm asking you this question so you can give the people the insight because I can't get it right for the life of me.
I think he's a borderline top 25 wide receiver, right on that edge. I think, and I'm going to say that pretty much every week moving forward, where, he's, because like you said, we don't know anymore because it can just be Justin Jefferson taking over a game. But it could also, Thielen is not out of the realm of possibilities that he has 6 catches, 60 yards, and 2 touchdowns too. So he's a guy that I think, unless you've got 3 super solid wide receivers, you're probably starting anyways. So that's kind of where I land on Thielen. This game, are you taking the Vikes or are you taking Dolphins?
Sorry, voice crack again. I'm gonna take Miami.
Wow, I still believe in the Vikings, even though I prepare myself to be disappointed.
This is how it goes with the Vikings. This is a game that the Vikings should win against a backup quarterback, and guess what? We just crap the bed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Forgot to say on bye this week, we got Houston, we got the Titans, we got Vegas, and we got Detroit. So those 4 teams are out this week. So if you don't hear us talking about it, it's because they don't play.
They are quite literally unavailable.
I probably didn't have to explain that, but I did anyways. Next, we have Baltimore Ravens at New York Giants. The Giants are 4-1, but Baltimore is still 5.5-point favorites on the road. Giants are a top 10 defense, and Baltimore has been right around a top 10 defense, other than that, obviously, that Dolphins game where they got torched. If Bateman does play, are you looking to start him?
I wouldn't. I think this is going to be a run game. I mean, This is the thing that people don't talk about with the Giants defense. Their secondary has been good.
Mm-hmm.
The run defense is the question. And that's kind of typical. Now, I'm not going to go there, but we saw the Cowboys do it against the Giants. Good rushing teams can beat the Giants. And there was a reason why Green Bay was winning against the Giants before blowing their lead. It was because the run game was efficient. It was running really, really well. So this kind of plays into favor of the Ravens a little bit, just being a high-powered run offense.
Yeah, maybe the best run offense in the NFL.
True.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's kind of how I feel. And then I'm not touching anybody on the Giants not named Saquon Barkley. Is there anybody you would look at this week?
No, not even Daniel Jones.
Yeah, that's 100% how I feel. Dobbins is a start. Lamar is a start. Mark Andrews is a start. That's about it. Moving on, or actually, forgot again. Baltimore or Giants? Who you got this week?
Yeah, give me Baltimore.
You taking Baltimore minus 5.5 or just Baltimore?
Yeah, I'll take the 5.5.
All righty. Next up, we got the Patriots at the Browns. Browns are -3. We talked about it earlier. Mac Jones is limited, so obviously that affects the game a little bit if he is able to play. The Patriots have been bottom 10 this year in fantasy points against tight ends. Are you looking at David Njoku this week as a start?
I think you kind of have to because, I mean, the Browns clearly trust Jacoby Brissett to at least be, I don't know if competence the right word, but like they trust Jacoby enough to give him some work in the passing game. And he's only looking at Amari Cooper and David Njoku.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's not going to go through a full progression.
No, he's really not. He's just going to see, is Amari open? No. Is David open? Yeah. Okay, I'll get him the ball.
Yeah. All right, talking about those wide receivers this week, are you trusting more in Amari Cooper or a guy we talked about last episode, Jacoby Myers?
I'm going Jacoby Myers on this one, and it sounds crazy, but here's the thing. I don't bet against Bill Belichick, okay? We literally saw it last week. He takes away your best target, your best weapon. He takes it away. He will take Amari Cooper out of this game.
Yeah, 100%. And then I'm assuming Ramondre, Chubb, and Hunter all starts. If Damian Harris plays, I mean, maybe that affects how Ramondre a little bit, but I would assume he's not even full go if he does play. So all three would be starts. I agree. And then are you sticking to it? Are you betting Bill Belichick in this game, or do you think the Browns pull it out at home?
Bailey Zappi walks into Cleveland, takes the dub. Give me Patriots +3.
There you go. I am going to take Browns money line. I'm not brave enough to bet -3, but I do think that Chubb proves to be too much in this game. Cincinnati Bengals at New Orleans Saints. Cincy -1. Both defense has been top 10 against the quarterback position, which would not be good for the Saints if none of their wide receivers play. How are you feeling about Joe Burrow on the other side of the ball, though? Is he a top 10 option this week?
I can't put him in my top 10.
Ooh.
And actually, no, he is. You know why? This is a homecoming game for him. He's an LSU guy. This is a homecoming game. He's absolutely a top 10 player because he wants to show out. What am I talking about?
All righty. Then let me piggyback off that. Is this a bounce back game for either T. Higgins or Jamar Chase or both of them?
I think it's a bounce back for both, honestly. This secondary is leaky in New Orleans. And the one thing they have going for them is their run defense.
Yeah.
So if I'm Cincinnati, I'm going, if we want to win this game, it's because T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow.
Yes, 100%. I assume you guys will touch on the Saints on Saturday episode a little bit more. So we won't talk about their wide receivers too much right now just because they are hurt. So let me ask you now, Cincinnati Bengals or New Orleans Saints in this one? Who you got?
Yeah, give me the Bengals -1.
Yeah, Yeah, if you're going to take Bengals, you might as well take a -1. um, next, we got San Francisco 49ers at the Atlanta Falcons. San Francisco -5.5. 49ers are the best team against quarterbacks and wide receivers. Are you thinking about sitting Kyle Pitts and Drake London this week?
I'm absolutely sitting Pitts this week.
Really?
Absolutely.
Give me a couple tight ends you'd start over Pitts.
Tyler Higbee.
Okay.
In David Njoku. As I'm just trying to name them off the top of my head here. I'll help myself out here real quick. I'll just pull up a list of tight ends.
So you got Kelsey Andrews for sure.
I would start Hayden Hurst.
Hayden Hurst. So you're way down the list. So yeah, he is.
Yeah, like that's how I need to go that far down to like explain like how out I am on Kyle Pitts this week. Even Robert Tonyan, I would start Robert Tonyan.
Wow. All right. Well, there you go. There you have it. That's how out Ty is on Kyle Pitts. The Falcons are the 5th worst team at giving up fantasy points to every position. So I would assume then that makes 49ers all starts. You're starting, except for Jimmy, unless you really need a quarterback or you're in a 2 QB league. You're starting Jeff Wilson, starting Devo, starting Kittle. Are you starting Ayuk?
I would say I'm actually starting Ayuk. Like if it comes down between Kittle and Ayuk, I'm starting Ayuk over Kittle.
All right.
I saw the perfect tweet to explain like why Kittle has not been Kittle so far this year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of the meme of just like, do you remember in Moneyball when Jonah Hill is explaining to Brad Pitt, like, here's this player and this player, but here's the issue, right? It's like, here's George Kittle, elite route runner, excellent hands, top 2 tight end, if not the best tight end in all of football. Here's the issue. He plays left tackle. Like, I was like, that's perfect. That's
exactly,
perfect.
Yes, that describes it 100%.
That's why I would take Ayuk over Kittle if it came down between the two.
Yeah, for sure. San Francisco -5.5. Are you taking that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think they might route them this week. Next we got Jets at Packers. Packers -7. This does feel like a redemption game from Aaron Rodgers. Just real quick, is AJ Dillon startable?
I think he is this week.
Yeah.
I mean, the Packers have always split carries between them. AJ Dillon could very well find pay dirt this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this game holds a lot of players who are like right on that edge of, do you start or not? Obviously, you're starting Aaron Jones, Breece Hall, especially after what we just saw from Breece Hall. But the wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, Romeo Doubs, for me, they're all right on the edge of top 36 wide receivers, right? They're right on the edge of flex. Like, if you don't have anybody else, you're kind of throwing them in. I'm not excited about starting any of them this week, though. I don't know how you feel about that.
I'm interested to see who Sauce Gardner kind of shadows in this game, because it could be Doubs on some plays. It could be Lazard.
Yeah.
But the second, I mean, I'm trying to DJ Hall. I think that's the other corner for the Jets. He's been almost better than Sauce Gardner this year. And I say that lately because everyone is so in love with Sauce Gardner.
Yep.
I'm not really. If I'm completely honest, I'm not starting any Jets or Packers wide receivers this week.
Yeah, I don't know if I would either. Except for sure, Jets. I think Lazard's the guy I'd take a shot on if I was going to. If we're looking at quarterbacks, are you starting either Rodgers or Zach Wilson? Because Rodgers is a borderline top 12, but I don't think I'd start him.
I wouldn't.
All righty. On the same page. Do you think Packers covers -7?
I'll say yes.
No, I don't think they cover, but I do think they
Green
win.
Bay.
It is at Green Bay. I don't think they cover, but I do think they win. Next, we got Buccaneers and Steelers. We got Bucks -8 on the road. Shows you how little people respect the Steelers right now. This feels weird coming out of my mouth. Is Najee Harris a must sit?
That sounds so strange.
Bucks are a top 10, or Bucks are the second best defense against the run this season.
He is. He absolutely he is.
Did you see any of the highlights of their last game? He looked hurt.
A little bit.
Oh, he looked like he was not running normal. He looked like his foot injury is still bothering him.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, honestly.
Yeah, and so I don't know. Hopefully he is healthy. Hopefully it was just a couple clips I saw, but man, he just didn't look right. We just saw the Steelers team get obliterated by the Bills. That makes me think Brady, Fournette, Godwin, Evans are all top 10 options this week.
Yes, agreed.
I don't see any reason that they don't put up 30 points for them. Looking on the Steelers side, Pickens or Deontay if you got to pick one.
I'm going to go Deontay. I don't like either.
No, I don't love either. I don't love anybody on the Steelers anymore. I was lower on Deontay coming into the season for this reason. I need to see it from Pickett before I can feel confident, or not even confident, just comfortable starting any Steeler option. I'm taking the Bucs to cover here, even though it's on the road. But I do see a world where the Steelers defense starts to pick it up a little bit. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah. Give me Tampa at the 8. And going back to your Deontay Pickens question, the 2 weeks that Kenny Pickett has played, he's averaging 15 fantasy points a game.
15.
Pickens.
Yeah.
So honestly, I might say Pickens.
It'd be hard not to if you had to pick one, but yeah, like we said, we're not in love with either. Next up, we got Jacksonville at Indianapolis. If JT plays, you got to think it's a bounce back week for him. You hope. But like we said before, too, he's coming off a high ankle sprain. So you got to hope that he's actually healthy if he comes back. Jacksonville is bottom 10 against running backs, so that's kind of what gives me the hope. Christian Kirk, Michael Pittman, you're starting them even after, kind of a bummer of a week for Kirk. The guy I have a question for you on is Alec Pierce. Are you starting Alec Pierce this week?
I am not. That is because Jacksonville literally has Indy's number every single year. And it showed in week 2 when they shut him out. And kind of spoiling my pick here for who I think will win the game, but Indy has not shown me anything to convince me that, they have I shouldn't say a shot, but the Jaguars might be better than the Colts. And that sounds crazy, but it's true.
Yeah. From what we see on the field, I agree. I would take Jacksonville money line here for sure. Last, just super quick, are you starting either Jaguars running back?
Not until I see some clarity.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I would probably stay away. Moving on, we got Cardinals at Seahawks. Cardinals -3. You riding the hot hand with Geno, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf?
You bet I am.
There's no better defense right now to do that with, so I feel like you gotta. Guy you just talked about last episode, Ken Walker. Are you looking at him as a top 15 option this week? Because I might be. I think I am. No,
I'm not.
Not bought in yet.
I think it would be crazy for Seattle just to dump the entire rushing load onto Ken Walker.
That's true.
So I think DJ Dallas has a role to play. They just claimed Tony Jones off of waivers. Or was it the Saints? It doesn't matter. Tony Jones is now a part of the Seahawks squad.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt that he gets involved because it's on a new team. But again, I doubt that Ken Walker gets everyone's dream workload of 25 carries and whatnot. I don't know. I'm expecting Seattle to just throw the ball still.
And that's Yeah, that could definitely happen. I think in my head I'm envisioning a touchdown for Ken Walker. But the more I think about it, that's not how the Seahawks team has been performing. It's been breakaway runs or it's been long passing touchdowns.
Oh, sorry. Just a little news update. You know how we talked about how Tyreek, that the Dolphins are optimistic that he plays on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
He just fully practiced today, so that
And Mostert didn't, so there you
oh
go.
great. You know what?
Everything we
The
just
Dolphins
said, throw it out the
bench them
window.
all, bench them all.
Oh gosh, gotta love it. James Conner, how are you feeling about James Conner? I feel like this is
Zero.
it.
Well,
This has got to be the get right game for him, fantasy wise. If he's gonna score touchdowns, it's this game. But the efficiency's awful this year.
yeah. I mean, he did kind of get going against Philly last week before he got hurt, so maybe there's some optimism there. He,
3.7 yards a
closer to
carry.
he's closer to flex than he is a running back one.
I would agree. He's at the bottom of that running back 2 barrel. Who are you taking in this one? Do you think Arizona covers -3? Do you take Seattle to win outright at home? So I think I'm going to take Seattle.
Yeah, give me Seattle.
For sure. All righty. Now we have one that might be a rout. We got Panthers at LA. You'd think this would be the get right game for LA, but you never know. Maybe Panthers fire off with PJ Walker in a freedom game after Matt Rule's been fired. The Rams are the best team against the run. Does that change any expectations for CMC? Or are you
Not
just
necessarily.
expecting?
I just think there's a little more receiving work than
Yeah.
usual.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. He's going to get like 9 carries, 23 yards, 10 catches, 10 catches on 10 targets for 85 yards and a touchdown. So, are any other Panthers startable this week? Because I'm leaning towards no with PJ Walker at quarterback against the Rams in Los Angeles.
I'm trying to remember if DJ Moore did anything noteworthy with PJ Walker. And I'm leaning towards no because I don't if there was something, I feel like I would have known it and it would have come to mind or it would be mentioned, but nothing. So I wouldn't start any.
Yeah, 100%. Is A-Rob droppable?
Yes.
Yeah, you got to think so. I mean, at this point, he's just done nothing. I mean, the snap's there, but Cup doesn't even look his way. So it's like, or not Cup, Stafford. Cup might as well play quarterback.
I mean, Ben Skoranek got 8 targets against Dallas.
Exactly. And then talking about another disappointment on the Rams offense, the Panthers are giving up 24 points per game to running backs. That's the 7th worst. Are you starting Akers this week?
As a flex, yeah, because I think he can find the end zone in this one.
Okay, I think I'm on the same page. We talked about this one. This is going to be the game of the week. It's Buffalo at Kansas City. They actually have Buffalo -2 in Kansas City, which is, I know Buffalo's been hot, but still. Are you trusting any pass catcher on the Chiefs offense outside of Kelsey? Are you trusting any player outside of Kelsey and Mahomes on the Chiefs?
Nope.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I mean, CH has had 2 different games this year, averaging under 2 yards per carry. He's getting out snapped by Jerick McKinnon. Juju hasn't been, McCole Hardman's been, MBS has been, even when they have good games, the other guys, it's like 12 points. So that's kind of where I am. And on the other side, obviously you're starting Diggs. Obviously you're starting Josh Allen. Gabe Davis. Do you have to start him this week off of what you just did?
I feel like you kind of have to, right?
That's
just
kinda
history with the Chiefs, what he did last week. Like, obviously, I'm not expecting a top 5 wide receiver finish from him, but,
Something decent.
Something decent, yeah, for sure.
A little something.
Little something.
And then, who you got in that one? Bills or Chiefs?
Give me Chiefs money line.
And I feel the same way, but in my heart, I know I couldn't root for that, so give me the Bills to cover. Next up, we got the Sunday Night Football game. That is Dallas at Philly. Philly -5. Would you start Michael Gallup in this one?
No, just being in Philly, Cooper Rush is still going to be starting, and
Yeah, I would agree. We've been talking about Zephyrus Pollard or neither this game. I see them both as flex options right now until I
I
see
think
it
I think
moving
if you're in a
forward.
pinch, you
Yeah,
lean Pollard just because between the tackles is not the way to beat Philly on the run.
no, definitely not. And then do you think it's an AJ Brown or Devonta Smith week, or do you think it's both?
Oh, I think this is an AJ Brown game. Everyone's gonna I think there's gonna be some kind of like, oh, it's gonna be Diggs on AJ Brown. Who's gonna win
Yeah.
this one? And AJ Brown's gonna like torch him this year or this week, and like almost to a point of like AJ Brown might be like a top 5 option this week.
Ooh, all right, spicy. I like it. So does that mean you're taking Philly -5 this week?
Yes, I am.
Ooh, handed out Cooper
Actually,
Rush's first
actually,
loss.
I'll take Dallas +5 because their defense is good. Their defense is good,
That's
but
true.
I will take Philly to win this game.
All righty. I think I'm going to take the same Philly money line. And then we get to see Russ on primetime again in the Monday night game. Woohoo! We got Broncos at Chargers. Is this a Russ bounce back week?
Nope. Nope.
I agree.
I mean,
I think Sutton's still a good start, but I do not think it's a Russ bounce back game.
this is where it's out of Russ's control. The play calling is just not
No.
geared towards him at all. It really isn't. Like, again, I've said this before. Russ is an improviser.
Mm-hmm.
This offense is needing a quarterback that is more of a game manager, that is more of a,
Aaron Rodgers.
an Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
So, again, Russ has been bad, but equally the coaching and the play calling has been absolute garbage.
Yeah, I would agree. Last guy that I'm going to ask you about, Melvin Gordon. Chargers are the worst rush defense against running backs right now. Are you looking to start him this week as RB2?
I think you do start him this week. And it always seems like Melvin Gordon like plays well against the Chargers just because like he did play for the Chargers, right? So even though revenge games usually only happen once, it seems like it's always a revenge game for Melvin Gordon against the Chargers. So the Chargers just leak on the run. This should be a good game for Melvin Gordon, unless he fumbles. And if he fumbles, then he deserves to be cut because he's had too many fumbles this year. But
I agree. Alrighty. With that, thank you for listening. Ty, do you have anything to tell the people?
I'll plug the Chalkboard again. If you want to become a league winner, you're looking for free advice, starts and sits, you want to see weekly rankings, and so much more, join the Chalkboard. It's absolutely free. You can find the link to that pretty much anywhere. It'll be in the link of this video. It's in the link of any of our social bios. Easy to find, easy to join. Be a league winner. Join our Chalkboard.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't figured it out by now, Ty wants you in there. Our other socials are Fancy Football Fellas at TikTok and YouTube, FF Fellas and Twitter, the FF Fellas on Instagram, and you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts at. With that, Ty and Lucas will see you on Saturday, and deuces.
Deuces.